welcome. I hope you're finding some pockets of joy as we enter the holiday season, and it's wonderful. It's great, in fact, to be sharing this lunch hour, or perhaps it's a coffee hour or breakfast even for our friends on the West Coast, but to be sharing that with you today. Now, I understand there are many new folks joining us. So for those who I haven't had the pleasure of meeting, my name is Tom Viola, and I'm the Executive Director at Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS. And I look forward to knowing you and having the opportunity to say thank you in person. Again, thank you for joining us. Today, I am very excited for you as valued members of the Broadway Cares family to join us as we open our virtual doors to the office for a conversation focusing on the essential services of the Entertainment Community Fund, formerly known as the Actors Fund. This is a safety net of social services provided for everyone in the entertainment industry and performing arts. And what you have been a part of is the $7.6 million that we have awarded the Entertainment Community Fund in 2023. And for some of you who have been around a long time, the over $140 million that we've awarded the Entertainment Community Fund since 1988. It's extraordinary. Thank you for being a part of this story, which we're going to hear more of today. So, that said, today we're going to hear from two remarkable individuals from the Entertainment Community Fund, two very good friends of mine and Broadway Cares, as we learn more about how your support provides essential services for the entertainment industry and the performing arts. That's everybody who makes these shows and plays possible, not just actors. So what we do together makes a difference. We will be joined by Broadway Cares Major Gifts and Planned Giving Officer, Nick Mayo, to moderate this conversation. So let's get this show on the road and introduce our first guest. Our first guest has indeed been with the Entertainment Community Fund since 1984. As Chief Operating Officer, she oversees the intersection of administration, finance, advancement, which some of us call development, and programs, including social services, healthcare for the fund's 3 offices in New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles, as well as its supportive housing residences in Manhattan, Brooklyn, and West Hollywood. She earned her BA in psychology from American University and a master's degree in social work from Columbia University, and has completed the Columbia University Graduate School of Business for not-for-profit management, executive, and leadership programs. That's an awful lot. That's a mouthful to just say she is a terrific advocate and someone who I admire greatly. Please welcome from the Entertainment Community Fund, Chief Operating Officer Barbara Davis, and our moderator, Nick Mayo. Hey, Barbara.
Thank you, Tom. That's very long.
Oh, well.
Thank you.
Barbara, where are you zooming in from today?
I'm in the office here at the fund on 7th Avenue between 48th and 49th. So just around the corner.
We're so happy that you're here. Thanks for zooming in.
Thank you.
And I know we have another guest waiting in the wings.
We do. Should I like to make that introduction now? Our second guest has worked as a clinician, program developer, and administrator for the past 30 years at the fund. There, she has developed programs addressing work-life balance, created mental health and substance abuse for awareness programs, as well as numerous groups addressing anxiety and depression, career transition, health and wellness issues. She's a licensed clinical social worker, receiving her MS from Columbia Social School of Social Work in 1986, where she has also taught advanced clinical practice and has a postmaster's certificate in advanced clinical practice from NYU's Silver School of Social Work in 2010. Barbara, if you ever have to introduce me, all you have to say is he was a musical theater major at CCM. It's so much easier. But please, again, a dear friend and a tremendous advocate who makes so much possible for our industry. Please welcome the Manager of Social Services, Tamar Shapiro. Boom. Hi, Tamar.
Hi. Thank you, Tom.
Yes.
So I'm sorry that you had to do such a mouthful. I know you guys have known each other for so many years. And I'd be interested to know, speaking of that, I mean, you both have been at the fund for a very long time. When did you talk a little bit about that journey of how you came in and how things have shifted over these years and the work with Broadway Cares?
Sure. Barbara, you want to start? You want me to start? Well, actually, sort of Barbara hired me, so that's how I began. And she likes to tell the story that she, I guess I wrote a thank you note after our interview, which, you know, dates us, of course. And she said she liked my penmanship. So I'm not sure what sort of recommendation that is about me, that she liked my penmanship, but that's how sort of I started. But I had worked prior to coming to the fund in psychiatric mental health in a union setting, but always loved sort of theater and entertainment. It was a big part of my growing up and what my family did. They always made sure that we had exposure to theater growing up. So it was quite, I thought this was a special place to land after I finished my graduate program.
What about you, Barbara?
And, you know, I would also, Tamar and I actually both came out of Columbia, and we were in what was called, the program at the time was called the World of Work. And it really focused on quality of life issues for workers. So we had both worked in labor settings, in member assistance programs. And when I started at the fund, one of the things that was surprised me the most was that there's so many risks in a life in the arts, right? People who join this industry do it for the passion, for the love, but they do it at a lot of personal risk. The career trajectory is so uncertain, the high risk of injury, of difficulty getting health insurance, of constant rejection. And so coming here, it sort of brought together all the issues of the impact of work on people's lives and their identities, and how important it is to create support systems that help people, particularly from our perspective, people in the arts, to stabilize their lives as much as possible. So over the years, many of the folks that we've worked with come from similar backgrounds to Tamar and I, really focusing on the impact of what it means to work on the arts, and how to address issues of quality of care. Many of our staff are from the industry. They were actors, they were dressers, they were crew, and then had second careers going to either graduate school for social work. Some of our career counselors come out of the business and go into career counseling, et cetera. Even our director of financial wellness started off in opera. And she's wonderful at a holiday party. She really can belt it. So I think the theme for us and for so many people who work here at the fund is this marrying of our professional interests and our passion for this industry.
Well, Barbara,
Beautiful.
I've always thought of the Entertainment Community Fund as being the employee assistance program of the entertainment industry, because this is such a gig economy. You don't stay at a job often for, sometimes only for months. Mm-hmm. And all those employers cannot provide the kind of services that a larger corporation or business might. So it's a very important aspect of how
that's right. That's exactly what we've been doing, and continue to work to do, because people are not attached to employers for lengths of time. They need a home base, a place where they can go no matter what's happening in their work life, that they always have to fall back on for basic needs, for guidance, for resources, for dealing with family issues, whatever it is. People should think of this as their first stop or home base.
You talk about this first stop, and that's exactly where I'd love to sort of start. And before we jump in, I also want to encourage everyone who's a guest today, if you have any questions of Barbara, Tamar, or Tom, you can use the raise your hand feature, and we'd love to have this be a conversation. So if there's something that comes up and you'd like further clarification, or you'd like to go down a path, please do use that raise your hand feature, and we'll happily call on you and you can ask a question. So let's talk about that first step. And, you know, Tom said, I don't know, a couple of months ago when we were talking about food insecurity and food pantries, that sometimes coming for food is a gateway to other services. specific at the Entertainment Community Fund, it seems like coming for emergency financial assistance can sometimes be that gateway to larger services. Tamar, can you speak, the words financial assistance? What does that mean? Like breaking it down, when someone comes in, what is the need and how does the Entertainment Community Fund help that first step?
Yeah. Well, I think that's become such an important part of what we do for precisely the reason that Tom mentioned earlier. This is a gig economy, and people flow in and out of work, and they flow in and out of different pay scales. So it's really difficult sort of to plan and to manage. And so the assistance that we can provide can really help people in that moment that can be really difficult. Sometimes because there's a lack of work, sometimes because there's a health issue, a family issue, but something that's been unplanned, that's happened in your life, that's been difficult to financially put money aside for. And that's what we're here to do, is to help people with some of their basic expenses, with their rent, with the medical bill, with the cost of utility bill. If it is about getting them some food, we can do that as well. So financial assistance is that bridge sort of to helping people in sort of an immediate time when they've come upon a situation that's just difficult.
Well, it's also too, sometimes I think making sure we don't create an emergency. I mean, being able to pay somebody's health insurance premium, make sure that they don't land in a place where they have no insurance and then suddenly are coming to much more expensive assistance.
Yeah. And I think the other piece, Tom, on exactly what you're leading into is that one of the reasons why we have social workers on staff is so that we can have that conversation, because sometimes it is about, well, someone's coming in because they're concerned they can't pay their health insurance, but it leads to a conversation of why that health insurance is important. I mean, we all want everyone to be insured, but sometimes people have all sorts of medical issues going on with themselves that need to be looked at, that need help with. One of my, I think, stories that still stays with me to this day, which was years ago, is someone came in with help with their rent, and the social worker began talking with them, and they said, I just can't pay my rent. But when they began to have the conversation, they realized this person hadn't been employed in a while because they were losing their eyesight. And so they were having a difficult time in auditions. And that led to a whole nother conversation and connections to services so that this person could manage and continue to be employed and continue to figure out ways to support themselves. So that's what that partnership with us, between sort of our love for the industry and wanting to have people develop sustainable plans, as well as using our professional skills to help them sort of develop that conversation and explore sort of what's bringing them to us now.
And when you talk about they meet with a social worker, talk about that. I mean, obviously there's a vulnerability when someone comes in seeking some assistance. So are they, when this client reaches out, they're assigned a social worker and they sit down and they address the needs with that person. Do they stay with that person through their journey? Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so ideally, yes, but it really can depend on the situation. So when we're connected to a social worker, they're going to just really begin by asking, tell us what's going on. Tell me how we can help you. And beginning to pull away the layers to understand what their situation is. And as we begin to explore if it's something that we can help with in social services, then we'll manage that. It might be connection to our career center, because they're looking for other streams of income. How can we help you develop some of the skills that you have outside of your performing skills or your work as a stagehand or whatever it might be? Or if it's connection to our health insurance resource center. So the social worker will follow them through those connections as well. It's possible they'll be referred to another social worker on our staff who's running a support group that we think might be helpful. We have a grief support group. If someone has, recently lost someone in their lives and we think that will be helpful, we'll connect them to that. So we all work as a team to try to figure out the best pathway for that person.
It sounds like it's treating it holistically, like that you come in for one thing and then all of a sudden you realize that there are other resources out there other than that immediate financial need.
Yeah.
Barbara, can you talk a little bit about some of those things?
Sure. I mean, and we really think of it as wraparound services, right? So somebody comes in, something's going on, but we look at the whole picture and what's happening. So, it can be everything from medical needs. So we have thanks to Broadway Cares, Equity Fights AIDS, we have a really wonderful partnership with Mount Sinai, and we have a fantastic health center, the Friedman Health Center for the Performing Arts, right upstairs. So we're on 10 and 11, and the health center's on 12. And that's an amazing place, because not only the doctors, or the primary care doctors, are fantastic. We've got some wonderful specialists, but unlike going to any other doctor's office, here we have the collaboration between our social services program, our medical services, our insurance services, as Tamar said, career services, financial wellness, all of that. So everybody is trained to look at the whole picture and make sure that we are interconnected. The Career Center has been critical these last few years, and they've really done an amazing job of going from first, really what we talked about just in terms of sideline work. If you weren't earning your living at your primary craft, what else you could be doing. But now the career counselors are really focused on helping people look at their careers holistically, and what do they need to be doing to develop multiple streams of income over time to support themselves. So whether it's their primary career, secondary career, it's really about how can you develop the quality of life for yourself that you want and need. So yeah, there's a lot of different programs. Also, I didn't mention our housing program. I'll tell you a story. So we have, besides the fact that the Entertainment Community Fund is involved in developing affordable and supportive housing, as well as the home, which we'll talk about in a moment. We also do a lot of housing education. And my most recent story was I went by when the SAG-AFTRA was striking and doing a demonstration in Times Square. I went by and said hello to a couple of people, and one of the women who was a captain, when I told her I was from the Entertainment Community Fund, she gave me the biggest hug and just said thank you. And she listed off 6 people from the fund by first and last name that she had worked with over the last couple of years, because she was having such a difficult time finding housing that she could afford. She was rejected from an affordable housing building that she had applied for, and came to us. We looked at her case. We said, no, she should be eligible. We reran the numbers. We advocated with HPD, etc. She was accepted and now has a gorgeous, affordable apartment. And it was really sort of, she told this story of working with all the different people on staff that has really changed her quality of life. So there's a lot of different things in there, but
I love watching you talk about that, Barbara, because your face, there's so much joy in that, and advocating for this person. And everyone here who's in this room is responsible for that. This could not happen if it weren't for the support of everyone in this room. Those financial assistants, having someone to advocate you for housing, shelter, these things that are so important. And these, as you said, the risk of an artist is a known.
Yeah.
And you're not going to take that away, but you can have an advocate and have some place to go. And everyone in this room should feel ownership of that support, because it truly would not be possible.
Absolutely. The Entertainment Community Fund is what it is because of the long-standing partnership with Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS. I can't imagine what would have been so different without this partnership. We've built these services together over the years, looking at what's most important for this community and how do we care for them the best. And it's really been through this collaboration that's allowed us to be who we are.
Barbara and Tamar, we have a member of the audience who would like to ask a question. Paul, feel free to unmute yourself and ask the question of our panelists.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for putting this together. It's great to see everyone. I guess my question is for Barbara. If an actor comes to you for the first time looking for assistance, it could be housing, food, any of the assistance that you provide, does that person need to meet any kind of qualifications or, make any kind of, payments or donations in order to get help from this, organization?
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Paul. That's a great question. I'm going to answer it in two parts. One is you asked about eligibility. So we try and keep our programs as open as possible, but we do have to have an eligibility because we're really designed for people who are working professionally in the industry. So certain programs like emergency financial assistance is based on somebody having a work history where they can show documented earnings. Right now, you can actually look on our website. We spell it out really clearly. You need to have earned $6,500 for it always was 3 out of the last 5 years, but because of COVID and shutdowns and things, we're looking at a longer 3 out of 7 years. So certain programs do have a criteria like that. Many of them is based on if you self-identify as a professional in the industry. So to come to many of our workshops and seminars and group services, etc., you just need to self-identify as being in the industry. And you can come and participate. So again, all of our eligibility criteria is on the website. And the second part of your question about people having to be a member or pay, absolutely not. We are a nonprofit service organization. Our services are free, and it's based on people being in the industry, not on them doing any sort of donations or payments, etc.
Paul, thank you for that question. We have another question from Andrea. Andrea, would you like to unmute and ask a question? Andrea, you can unmute whenever you'd like, and there you are.
Trying to tell me how to do it. All right. So I'm sitting here at North Penn High School. We were the first high school to raise money for Broadway Cares 25 years ago, and we've raised over $100,000 since then. So we were invited by Taylor to come in and listen to this. But as I'm looking at their faces, many of them do want to go into the entertainment business. How does a young person get linked up with this? You arrive, you're starting your career. How is this available for them?
That's great. And in fact, it's funny you bring that up. We have been working recently on a couple of important projects. One is a client portal. So we have just launched, it's been the soft launch. So we've notified people who work with us currently that we now have this client portal. And in the spring, we'll do a more public launch. But we are in the process of developing online videos and information pieces, and a section of it is going to be for what we call the early career workers. In fact, I was in Los Angeles last week meeting with UCLA because it looks like we're going to do a project together for graduating college students. I think that information also applies for people who are high school students that are looking to go immediately into the business. But we hope to provide more informational services to people just starting their career. Programs like emergency financial assistance, you really will need to have already been in the industry, but we are doing more to provide guidance and education to people just coming into the business. So I would say stay tuned. Over this next year, you'll see some really good materials, I believe, going up onto our client portal. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. And they've been sitting here listening.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. I think that there's some misconceptions, and I'd love to, Tamar, maybe you can speak a little bit about this, about emergency financial assistance and who it's for. I think that a lot of people might think oh, that's for people who aren't working or who haven't made it. I think there's a great misconception that a lot of the people who you see starring in shows might need emergency financial assistance within the next year. So can you talk, I mean, just sort of breaking down that idea that emergency assistance is, you could watch a lead in a Broadway show and 3 years later, they're at the fund asking for assistance. Is that good?
Yeah, no, I think you sort of explained it very well. You know, this agency started because they realized how vulnerable in many ways people who are working in this industry are. And that's because they flow in and out of employment. So, and there's no clear trajectory to your career when you're in this field. You can be, like you said, a star on Broadway and film. You can have an incredible career in being a director, but that doesn't guarantee your next project. So people are constantly going out and auditioning for work, sort of unlike Barbara and I, who have very sort of traditional jobs in some ways, where there is a clear trajectory of how we can move forward if we want to. In this industry, there's not that. So I think sort of our financial assistance program as a conduit to all that we do is a way for people sort of to become engaged with our services, that it is there for people, again, when there's this unplanned moment. And many people have incredible careers, but careers are not always sort of financially that viable. You know, not everyone, I think when people think about the industry, they think about all the, you know, the big name stars that you see in film and television, but that's not the reality for everyone who's working here. People who are working every day in and out, making all those productions are making a living, but they're making a living. They're not making a star's income. And I think it's very difficult to save and to plan for the future, just like it is for anyone else. And so that's why we're here as that safety net to help provide that support when they come to a bump in the road, when something changes unexpectedly, so that we can, if it's financial assistance, that's great, but we also want to help prepare them for the future so that they can work with us to develop plans to be as resilient as possible in an industry that really demands resiliency and flexibility, which is not typical for, you know, other sort of types of jobs in this world.
I mean, I think when we started the conversation about risk, these are artists who are, the career path has this strong risk. And as we've all discovered with the pandemic and then this recent strike, that circumstance comes and makes that risk even heightened. Can you talk a little bit about how emergency financial assistance and the fund has responded or ballooned in regards to the pandemic and the strike? I'm sure you're seeing a lot more faces.
Yes.
Having a lot more conversations.
Yes, we have. You know, really thanks to Broadway Cares, to many other sort of people in this industry, we've been able to step up and be responsive during these unusual community events. I mean, we've been talking about how we've always responded to individuals. And I think you asked earlier what might have changed over the years. And I think our ability to respond to what I call community events has really magnified and been possible. So for me, community events are natural disasters that we are seeing more frequently across our country. The shutdown due to COVID, this long-term strike, which, you know, unplanned for anyone, because of sort of the community of support that we have from everyone. We've been able to sort of raise money to provide support to people to help keep them housed. And it's been really sort of basic. It's keeping the lights on, helping people buy medication for their diabetic medication, paying for getting to buy groceries for their kids. So it really is sort of that basic during these large community events where, thanks to everyone, we've been able to lean in to help many, many more people. You know, Barbara can speak to the numbers sort of most recently of what we've seen. It's certainly more than triple than what we would, you know, deal with in a regular day-to-day type of situation.
Yeah, for over what we would consider the COVID time period from March of 2020 until early this year, we've spent around $30 million on emergency financial assistance to people in the industry for basic needs. Since the work stoppage from the writer's strike and SAG-AFTRA strike, since May 2nd, we've spent, we're heading towards $11 million in emergency financial assistance. And that's going to continue. You know, we're so happy that the strike was settled last night, but there's a really long tail to these sorts of things. People are still in need. They will be for months. You had people double hit from, you know, they exhausted savings in 2020, just getting by for the time period. And then again, with a work stoppage. So people were really ill prepared often, and there are serious effects of that. So we know that even though the strike is settled now, we will be seeing people directly related to their needs from this for many months to come.
Barbara, that's staggering, that 30 million in emergency financial assistance, and then 11 in the time period of this. I hope that everyone here feels such ownership of that care. These services, this emergency financial assistance would not be possible without us together. So that's staggering and impressive. And I hope that you all feel some pride in that the artists that we care about so deeply and love and are so important to us as a culture of our city and as humans, that you're taking care of them in this time of need. So that's really, that's pretty amazing. I want to be cognizant of everyone's time, knowing we're here on a lunch break. So if there's anyone in our audience who has a question, please feel free to raise your hand. Otherwise, we want to make sure that we can all get back to work and make sure that you can get back to helping artists. Anyone? All right, Tom, I'm going to pass it back to you.
Sure. So again, as Nick said, wanting to be aware of the time, I want to thank Barbara and Tamar for joining us here today. This just continues the great pleasure and honor we have of working with you now for so many years as we have. And I also want to speak to the social work team at the many social workers of all varieties, both in the Actors Fund, at the Entertainment Community Fund's offices here in in New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago. Because when you hear the work and the expertise that they bring to their jobs, to their awareness, to how they can work so closely together and connect all these services, it is really what sets the entertainment community apart. So my thanks to all of them as well. So while we face unknowable challenges to come, I take great comfort in that we will continue to walk this path together. So thank you, Barbara. Thank you, Tamar. Thank you, Nick. Thank you all in attendance. Have a wonderful day, and wrapping up lunch or breakfast. So long.